We all know that the Sony A7S III has been an incredible camera up until this point, but the real question is it still a good option for you in 2024, or is it completely out of date? Let's talk about it. In this video, I'm going to be speaking a little bit more on my experience using this camera versus a more in-depth review of the specs of the camera. So if you're looking for the nitty-gritty elements and the specifics of the camera, go ahead and click on any of the other reviews, because this is going to be my particular experience and how I've enjoyed using the camera and where I think it stands now. So I know a lot of these videos make you wait kind of until the end in order to tell you whether this camera is worth buying in 2024 or not, but let me just tell you right now, it is 100% worth buying in 2024. So let me tell you the first reason why. I actually really love the build of this camera. I feel like with the A7S III, the way that the grip extends in your hand is really nice. It's also a very solid, rugged build. It doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart on me. And I have put this camera through everything. I've brought it across the world, different countries, different elements, whether it's sand, wind, cold, different things like that. And it's held up fantastic. I've never had sand in my lenses or in my my camera body, God forbid. I don't know how that would even happen, but for that reason alone, I think that's one of the main reasons why I really like this camera. I went from shooting on a different camera system and I came over to Sony, at which point I started shooting in S-Log3. Now, the dynamic range on S-Log3 is fantastic. The color grading abilities of this camera and the footage that comes out of it, I could not believe it when I switched over, and I'm in love with it. I color grade all my stuff on DaVinci Resolve, but with such a good preservation of information in the highlights and in the shadows, when you really do get into expanding that information, you can really start to create a look that's unique to whatever you're trying to achieve. It's honestly a pleasure. If you really wanted a video-centric camera, yes, you could go and buy the FX3, but you can also take photos on this camera. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend you printing these in some sort of large format, but when it comes to social, like social media and website related stuff, as long as it's not blown up or cropped in too much, the A7S III produces really good looking photos. And with the electronic viewfinder that you get on this camera, that'll help you with that. I wouldn't say that it is a hybrid camera, but I would say that it kind of is. I don't know if that makes sense. It kind of is, but it can take photos and the photos turn out pretty good. So if that's something that you also want to do, but you want to have a more video centric side of that, then the A7S III would be great, because it's going to do better video than a lot of those other Sony cameras, but at the same time, you can still take photos on it. It's not completely incapable. I honestly think that this camera is for filmmakers all across the board, and content creators who just want to create for maybe small business stuff as well. But I think the range is huge. Now, a lot of people are probably like, okay, dude, like, what are you talking about? It's not like a cinema camera, but it has the same sensor as the FX3, and the image produced looks fantastic. And the FX3 has been used for multiple different movies and things like that. So with that being said, the range of people who might use this camera, you know, there's going to be a big range. And if you really wanted to build this camera out, put a cage on it, put all the attachments on it, you could basically turn it into an FX3 and create a cinema camera out of having an A7S III. I use both manual and autofocus on this camera, and I can tell you firsthand that I've really never lost track of anything with the autofocus. It's a fantastic system that they've got going on. I know in some of the newer cameras they have an AI autofocus that works really well, and I've heard that it's insane, but at the same time, I've never had a problem with this autofocus. So one thing I kind of really wanted to touch on as well that I think is extremely important is, no matter what specs your camera have or don't have, the reality is it needs to tell the story that you want it to tell. And if that camera is good for you to tell the stories that you want to tell and the films that you want to shoot, then that's the right camera for you. And a lot of the times this is going to be that camera. With that being said, there are multiple different elements to storytelling. Sound design, there's color grading, there's composition, there's all kinds of stuff. And one of the elements of storytelling I wanted to touch on real quick is Artlist's new AI voiceover generator. I personally use Artlist for sound design, music, and everything in between, but they just came out with a new AI voiceover generator, and this thing is nuts. They have made it super easy for you to open up the website, go over, click a multitude of different options for voiceovers that you might be looking for to tell your story, and then you can change elements of the voiceover and the punctuation, which changes the way they say things, and it's really fascinating. Obviously, AI is making its way into filmmaking. I don't think this is going to take people's jobs right away. I know there are still a lot of things that you would go to a normal person to do for a voiceover when it comes to certain revisions in certain elements of creating a voiceover. However, what I will say is if you're looking to complete a very high quality voiceover and do some minor edits to the emotional inflections, this is going to be a really good option. I think another really important element to keep in mind too with this new kind of AI voiceover thing is before your project even starts, you can get inspiration by typing in different scripts, and that might even change the course of where your video goes. But additionally, you can charge extra now to add these voiceovers to your clients' videos, which is just extra money for you. So like, why wouldn't you do that, right?
And you can use these AI voiceovers on any type of footage.
By the way, I know my lighting in my room keeps changing. I have a window here. I can't black it out. It just keeps going brighter and darker, so forgive me. But the whole point is you're really just utilizing the tools that you have available to create your story, a camera being one of them, the A7S III, the voiceover being another, composition, colors, they all play a part in the story. And when it comes to the camera, specifically with the A7S III, it's in a little bit of a strange spot now, I think, with the ZVE1 available and the FX3 available. So I think if you have the extra $300 and you don't plan on taking any photos at all, go ahead and buy an FX3. If you want a similar video image to the A7S III, but you don't want some of the other bells and whistles that the A7S III has, go for the ZVE1. Is the A7S III still worth having in 2024? Absolutely. The A7S III has been a fantastic camera. I've loved it. It's changed my life when it comes to client work, commercial work, personal content, and I am looking forward to continuing to use it. I'm excited to see what comes next, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please remember to engage with me in some way, shape, or form. It means a lot to me, and we'll talk to you guys next time, and hopefully post more often. Peace out. Take it easy.